The massive ships appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. 12 vessels, each one bigger than a city, hung in space like dark metal moons. Their hulls bore the ancient symbols of the Galactic Council, marking them as representatives of the oldest powers in the galaxy. Ambassador Jin Su-min stood in the United Earth Defense Headquarters, watching the ships through the large windows. She had been Earth's representative to the galaxy for 10 years. She had met many alien species and learned their ways. But she had never seen the Council's full fleet this close to Earth before. "They're requesting immediate communication," said General Rodriguez, looking at his control panel with worry. "All 12 species are demanding to speak with our leadership." President Maria Santos entered the room, her face calm but her eyes showing concern. She had led Earth through many difficult times, but this felt different. The Council had never come to Earth in such numbers before. "Open the channel," she ordered. The main screen filled with the face of Chancellor Vex Tar, leader of the Zephyrian Empire. His blue skin was marked with the silver lines that showed his age and power. Behind him, representatives of the other 11 Council species sat in their ceremonial chairs. "Humans of Earth," Chancellor Vex Tar spoke in a voice that carried across space like thunder. "You have been called to account for your actions." President Santos stepped forward. "Chancellor, we welcome this meeting. How can we help the Council today?" "Help?" The Chancellor's 4 eyes flashed with anger. "You speak of help when you have brought chaos to our ordered galaxy? Your species has been in space for only 200 years, yet you spread like a disease across our territories." Ambassador Jin frowned. She knew this was not true. Humans had been careful to follow all galactic laws. They had taken only empty worlds, or worlds that other species did not want. They had traded fairly and helped those who asked for aid. "We have followed all galactic protocols," President Santos replied. "Our colonies are in unclaimed space. We have harmed no one. Our Ram Sea, unclaimed space?" This time, it was strategist Krilthax who spoke. The Morvac leader looked like a giant insect, with clicking sounds in his voice. "You take worlds that we decided were unfit for proper civilization. You trade with outcasts and rebels. You help failing colonies instead of letting them die as nature intended. You disrupt the natural order," added War Prime Theknol of the Bruthan Empire. His voice was deep and threatening. "The galaxy has been peaceful for 1,000 years under our guidance. You bring chaos wherever you go." Ambassador Jin wanted to argue, but President Santos held up her hand for silence. She had learned that sometimes it was better to listen first. "What exactly are you accusing us of?" the president asked. Chancellor Vex Tar stood up from his chair. Behind him, the other council members nodded in agreement. "You refuse to follow proper hierarchy. You treat lesser species as equals. You encourage rebellion against established order. Your very existence threatens the stability we have built. The Council has made a decision." Strategist Krilthax continued. "You will withdraw all human presence from space within 1 galactic standard year. You will return to your home system and remain there. You will pay reparations for the damage you have caused to galactic stability." The room fell silent. Ambassador Jin felt her heart racing. General Rodriguez put his hand on his weapon. "Though it would do no good against 12 massive ships." "And if we refuse?" President Santos asked quietly. War Prime Theknol leaned forward, his metal armor gleaming. "Then, we will remove you from space by force. We have done this before with species who would not learn their place. Some learned. Others did not survive the lesson." "You have 1 year," Chancellor Vex Tar said. "We suggest you use that time wisely. The Council's patience has limits." The screen went dark. The 12 ships remained in orbit for exactly 1 hour, then vanished into hyperspace, as suddenly as they had arrived. President Santos sat down heavily in her chair. Around the room, Earth's military leaders looked at each other with worry and anger. "Ma'am," General Rodriguez said, "our fleet is strong, but we have maybe 300 ships. Intelligence reports say the Council controls thousands of worlds and has been building their military for centuries. They're right about one thing." Admiral Chen Wei-long spoke from the back of the room. The old Korean officer was Earth's most experienced fleet commander. "We can't match their numbers or their technology. So we surrender?" asked General Martinez. "We give up everything we've built out there? All our colonies? All our friends?" Ambassador Jin thought about the colonies General Martinez mentioned. New Seoul, on Kepler 442b, where Korean families had built beautiful farms. New Lagos on Wolf 1061c, where African engineers had created amazing cities. The research station on Proxima Centauri b, where scientists from all over Earth worked together to unlock the universe's secrets. She thought about their alien friends too. The Kalari farmers, who had learned human agricultural techniques. The Bruthen mining families, who had found new hope, working with human engineers. The Wanderer fleets who had found safe harbor at human stations when no one else would help them. "We won't surrender," President Santos said finally. "But we also won't fight them the way they expect." Admiral Chen looked up with interest. "What do you mean, ma'am?" "They see us as chaos. They think we're weak because we help others instead of ruling them." President Santos stood up and walked to the window. "But maybe that's not weakness. Maybe that's our strength." "I don't understand," General Rodriguez said. Ambassador Jin suddenly smiled. She was beginning to see what the president meant. They count ships and worlds and technology, but they don't count friends. "Exactly," President Santos said. "We have something they don't understand. We have allies, not subjects. People who choose to stand with us, not people forced to obey us." Admiral Chen nodded slowly. "The Council rules through fear. They keep their power by making sure no one else can challenge them. But what if we're not challenging their power? What if we're offering something better?" "A year," President Santos said. "They gave us a year to withdraw. I think we should use that year differently. Not to run away, but to show the galaxy what real strength looks like." As the Earth's leaders began to plan, none of them noticed the small recording device that Ambassador Jin quietly activated. The conversation they had just heard would soon be shared with trusted friends across the galaxy. Friends who had their own reasons to question the Council's natural order. The Council had made one critical mistake. They assumed that humans would face them alone. They had no idea that in 200 years of space travel, humans had built something far more powerful than weapons or ships. They had built hope. Captain Sarah Kim stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony as it dropped out of hyperspace near Kalari Prime. The peaceful farming world looked beautiful in the light of its twin suns, with golden fields stretching across 3 continents. But Sarah knew that beauty hid a painful history. "Incoming transmission from the surface," reported Lieutenant Park. "It's Elder Nala Ani. Argo." The main screen showed the face of the Kellery leader. Her plant-like features were marked with the wisdom lines that came with age, and her large green eyes showed both joy and worry. "Captain Kim," Elder Nala Ani said in her soft, musical voice. "It has been too long since humans visited our world. But I sense this is not a social call." "I'm afraid not, Elder." Sarah had learned to speak directly with the Kalari. They appreciated honesty. "The Galactic Council has given us an ultimatum. We need to know where our friends stand." Elder Nalaani's leaves rustled, a sign of deep thought among her people. "Come to the surface. This conversation requires the presence of the Council of Roots." An hour later, Sarah sat in the Great Hall beneath Kalari Prime's largest tree city. Around her, dozens of Kalari elders swayed gently in the breeze. Their world had no cities like humans built. Instead, They grew their homes in the branches of massive trees that reached toward the sky. The Galactic Council has always seen us as simple farmers, Elder Nalaani said. They take our food, but give us little respect. They protect us, they say. But we remember what that protection really means. Elder Yuntar, ancient even by Kalari standards, spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. When the plague of shadows came to our world 50 years ago, the council said it was the will of nature. They were ready to let us die. But the humans came, added Elder Casara. Dr. Elena Vasquez and her team worked for months to find a cure. They saved millions of our people. Sarah remembered reading about Dr. Vasquez in the historical files. The woman had died from exposure to the plague while working to save the Kelari. She was buried here on Kelari Prime, in the Garden of Honored Friends. The council calls humans chaotic, Elder Nalani continued. But you brought us order when we faced extinction. You brought us hope when we had none. What are you saying, Elder? We are saying that the Kelari have never forgotten their friends. The old leader stood up, her leaves turning from green to gold with emotion. Our ships may be slow, but they are strong. Our weapons may be simple, but they work. If you fight the council, you will not fight alone. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening on dozens of worlds. On the mining asteroid of Thekvar Station, Admiral Chen Wei Long met with the Bruthan clan leaders. The huge, rock-skinned aliens gathered in their great hall, the sound of their voices like rumbling earthquakes. The council has always treated us like tools, growled clan leader Mordak. We dig their minerals, we build their stations, we ask for nothing but fair payment. But when the Red Star began to collapse, they told us to abandon our home. Human engineers came instead, added war leader Krakthos. Captain James Burke and his team died helping us evacuate our people. They could have saved themselves, but they stayed to make sure our children escaped first. Admiral Chen had read Burke's final report. The man had manually held open the evacuation portal while the star exploded around him. His sacrifice had saved 3,000 Bruthan families. The council sees strength in domination, clan leader Mordak said. But you showed us strength in sacrifice. The Bruthan mining clans remember their debts. On the edge of council space, Captain Li Minjun met with the Wanderer fleets. These nomadic people lived their entire lives in space, traveling between stars in massive ships that were both homes and worlds. Fleetmaster Zixara received him aboard her flagship, a ship so old that its origins were lost in history. The Wanderers themselves were difficult to describe, beings of energy that wore mechanical bodies to interact with physical matter. The council has always called us undesirable. Zixara's voice hummed through the ship's speakers. We take nothing from them. We threaten no one. But we do not bow to their authority. For this, they hunt us. When council ships attacked our medical fleet at Proxima Station, human vessels defended us, added another Wanderer captain. Captain Maria Rodriguez held off 3 council cruisers long enough for our ships to escape. She asked for nothing in return. The Wanderers have never fought alongside others, Zixara said. But these are not ordinary times. Our ancient technologies may surprise those who call us obsolete. While humans met with their closest allies, something unexpected was happening within the council itself. On the crystal world of Silthara, the Silhari Council of Minds gathered in their great meditation chamber. These beings of pure thought rarely concern themselves with physical conflicts, but the council's ultimatum troubled them. The humans have never shown aggression toward our kind, spoke Mindsinger Valana. Their thoughts are chaotic, yes, but not evil. There is curiosity in them, wonder, hope. The council demands we contribute ships to their war fleet, added another Silhari. But what war? The humans have attacked no one. In the warrior halls of Draconia Prime, the proud, dragon-like Draconis questioned their orders for the first time in centuries. War leader Skarax stood before his assembled generals. We are told to fight humans because they threaten galactic order he said, his voice carrying the power of ages. But what order? The order that keeps us fighting others' wars while they grow rich? The order that calls honorable combat chaotic? The humans fight alongside their allies, observed General Thoknar. They do not send others to die for them. There is honor in this, even if it is not our way. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Dr. James Park worked aboard the research vessel UES Discovery. The Korean scientist had been tasked with analyzing the Council's military capabilities, but what he found was more interesting than simple weapon counts. Look at these patterns, he told his research team. The Council's fleets are massive, but they're built for overwhelming single targets. They've never had to fight a coordinated multi-species resistance. Their tactics haven't changed in 500 years, added Dr. Martinez. They expect enemies to fight like they do: rigid formations, predictable strategies, honor-bound combat. But that's not how humans fight, Dr. Park said with a smile. And it's definitely not how our allies fight. As the months passed, a network began to form. Not the rigid hierarchy that the Council understood, but something new. Kelari agricultural ships began carrying hidden Bruthan weapons. Wanderer vessels shared ancient star maps with human navigators. Mining stations became secret supply depots. Most importantly, information began to flow. The location of Council supply lines, the movements of their fleets, the growing doubt among their own member species. Ambassador Jin Su-min coordinated much of this from Earth. She used every contact she had built over 10 years of diplomacy. Trading favors, sharing information, reminding old friends of old debts. The Council thinks in terms of species and territories, she told President Santos during one of their late-night planning sessions. But we think in terms of individuals and relationships. Is it working? The President asked. Better than we hoped, Jin replied. We're not just building a resistance. We're showing the galaxy that there's an alternative to the Council's way. As Earth's year of grace time continued to pass, the Council remained confident. Their intelligence reports showed human ships gathering at various points, but the numbers were still small compared to their vast fleets. Chancellor Vextar reviewed the reports from his command ship. The humans are making alliances with outcasts and rebels, he told his war council. This only proves our point about their chaotic nature. Should we be concerned about these minor species joining them? Asked strategist Krill Thax. War Prime Theknol laughed, a sound like grinding metal. The Kelari grow food. The Bruthan dig holes. The Wanderers have old ships and no home base. What threat could they possibly pose? But in the outer systems, Captain Sarah Kim smiled as she watched Kelari agricultural ships practice new maneuvers. Their cargo holds now carried more than grain, and she knew that across the galaxy, other, minor, species were preparing their own surprises. The Council had made one fatal assumption. They believed that power came from fear and strength came from domination. But humans had spent 2 centuries proving something different. Real strength came from friendship. Real power came from hope. The year was nearly over when the Council fleet arrived. Admiral Chen Weilong stood on the bridge of the UES Beijing, watching as 5,000 ships dropped out of hyperspace around Earth's solar system. The sight was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. My God, whispered Captain Torres from the nearby destroyer UES Aztlan. I've never seen so many ships in one place. The Council fleet stretched across space like a metal storm cloud. Massive dreadnoughts that could destroy planets moved alongside sleek cruisers and countless fighter craft. At the center of the formation was the Pride of Zephyr, Chancellor Vextar's flagship, larger than any human city. All human ships. This is Chancellor Vextar. The transmission came across all frequencies. Your time has expired. Surrender now, and return to your planet, or face the consequences of defying the galactic order. Admiral Chen opened a channel to all human forces. This is Admiral Chen to all ships. Remember your training. Trust your allies. Make Earth proud. The human defense fleet looked tiny compared to the Council Armada. 300 ships against 5,000. But Admiral Chen was not worried about the numbers. He was thinking about timing. Unknown ships detected entering the system, reported Lieutenant Kim from the sensor station. Multiple hyperspace signatures appearing across all sectors. Suddenly, space around Earth filled with more ships. But these were not human vessels. Kalari agricultural ships materialized first, their hulls gleaming like golden wheat in the sunlight. They looked peaceful and slow, but Admiral Chen knew better. Hidden beneath their farming equipment were weapons that the Bruthen had designed and humans had helped build. By the ancient trees came Elder Nalaani's voice over the communication channel. The children of Earth are not alone today. More ships appeared. Bruthen mining vessels, their thick armor plating scarred from years of asteroid work, but now carrying plasma cannons that could punch through any hull. Wanderer fleets phase-shifted into normal space, their ancient ships humming with technologies that predated the Council itself. What is this? Chancellor Vextar's voice carried shock and anger. These minor species dare to interfere with Council business? Not interfere, replied Fleetmaster Zeke's Era of the Wanderers, her voice like singing crystal. Participate. We choose to stand with those who showed us kindness when you showed us contempt. The Council formation began to shift, trying to account for the unexpected arrivals. But more ships kept coming. Species that the Council had forgotten or ignored for centuries emerged from hyperspace. The insectoid chorus arrived in tight swarm formations, their small ships moving like schools of deadly fish. The crystal beings called the Resonant came in vessels that looked like floating mountains, their hulls ringing with harmonic frequencies. Impossible, War Prime Thechnol growled from his command ship. How did the humans organize so many inferior species? The same way they do everything, Admiral Chen replied over the open channel. By treating people as friends instead of subjects. Chancellor Vextar had enough. All ships, attack. Show these chaotic beings the price of defying order. The battle began with the Council's traditional overwhelming assault. Massive energy beams lanced across space, targeting human ships with devastating precision. The UES Shanghai took a direct hit and exploded in a ball of fire. The destroyer, UES Mandela, barely escaped as a Council dreadnought's weapons melted its armor. For a moment, it looked like the Council's superior firepower would win quickly. Human ships scattered and retreated, their smaller weapons barely scratching the enemy's heavy armor. But then, the real battle began. Kalari ships that had appeared to flee suddenly wheeled around, their converted cargo holds opening to reveal Bruthen plasma cannons. The peaceful farmers had become deadly warriors, their agricultural ships moving in patterns that confused the Council's targeting computers. Their farming ships are armed, shouted a Council tactical officer. How is that possible? Because we helped them, Captain Sarah Kim replied from the UES Harmony, as she led a squadron of mixed human and Kalari vessels. Just like they helped us. Tried. The Bruthen mining ships proved even more dangerous. Their thick armor, designed to survive asteroid impacts, shrugged off Council weapons. Their mining lasers, meant to cut through solid rock, sliced through Council hulls like paper. Clan leader Mordak's voice boomed across the battlefield. For Captain Burke, for all the humans who died saving our people. The Wanderer fleets moved like ghosts, their ancient phase-shift technology allowing them to appear and disappear at will. Council ships found themselves under attack from enemies they couldn't see, couldn't track, couldn't hit. This is not how battles are supposed to be fought. Chancellor Vextar screamed at his tactical staff. Where is their formation? Where is their strategy? The answer was that there was no single strategy. Each allied species fought according to their own strengths, coordinated not by rigid commands, but by shared purpose. The chorus swarmed around Council fighters like angry insects, The resonance sang frequencies that disrupted Council electronics. Admiral Chen watched the battle from his bridge, coordinating the chaos with the skill of a master conductor. Wing 7. Support the Kalari advance on Sector 4. Wing 12. Cover the Bruthen mining ships while they reload. How do you keep track of all these different fighting styles? Asked his aide, Lieutenant Wang. Practice, Admiral Chen replied. We've been preparing for this for months. Every species fights differently, but we learn to work with each other instead of against each other. The tide of battle slowly began to turn. Council ships, designed to fight in orderly formations against predictable enemies, struggled to adapt to the chaotic multi-species assault. Their captains had been trained to follow ancient protocols, not to think creatively. Captain Li Minjun led a combined human wanderer task force against the Council's left flank. His ships would appear, strike hard, then vanish before the enemy could respond. Hit and fade tactics, he explained to his crew. Make them chase shadows while our friends hit them from behind. The Council's numerical advantage was becoming meaningless. Their ships were spread across the solar system, trying to chase enemies that refused to fight fair. Meanwhile, the Allied forces concentrated their attacks on key targets. The enemy command ship is breaking through, warned Captain Torres. The Pride of Zephyr was pushing toward Earth, its massive weapons charging for a planet-killing blast. Not on my watch, growled Elder Nalani. Her agricultural ship, the Harmony of Growing Things, moved to intercept. The massive Council dreadnought fired everything it had at the small farming vessel. The Kalari ship's shields held just long enough. As the Pride of Zephyr's weapons recharged, Bruthen mining ships emerged from the shadow of a nearby moon. Their combined plasma fire struck the dreadnought's engines, crippling the massive vessel. This is Admiral Chen to all ships, came the transmission. The enemy flagship is disabled. Press the attack. But the real shock came when some Council ships began to change sides. Silhari vessels, beautiful things that looked like floating crystals, simply stopped firing. Draconis warships turned their weapons on their own former allies. What are you doing? Chancellor Vextar demanded. Choosing honor over fear, replied war leader Skarax of the Draconis fleet. We will not fight an unjust war for corrupt leaders. The Council formation collapsed entirely as more and more species questioned their orders. What had begun as an overwhelming assault became a confused retreat. War Prime. Theknol made one last desperate attack, leading his personal fleet directly at Earth itself. If I cannot rule this system, I will destroy it. But Captain Sarah Kim was waiting for him. The UES Harmony, supported by a dozen allied ships, met the Bruthen war leader in the space between Earth and its moon. You want to hurt innocent people to prove a point, Sarah said over the communication channel. That's exactly why we're fighting you. The battle was brief but fierce. War Prime Theknol's ship was powerful, but it was alone against many. When the smoke cleared, the war leader's vessel was drifting powerless in space. This is impossible, Theknol whispered. We are the Council. We have ruled for 1,000 years. Ruled through fear, Admiral Chen replied. We're showing the galaxy something better. As the Council fleet retreated in disorder, Chancellor Vextar screamed orders that no one followed. His escape pod launched from his crippled flagship, tumbling through space as he ranted about chaos and proper order. The Battle of Earth was over, but everyone knew that the real war was just beginning. Captain Sarah Kim looked out at the mixed fleet of human and alien ships that now filled Earth's orbit. Kalari farmers worked alongside Bruthen miners to repair damaged vessels. Wanderer engineers shared their knowledge with human technicians. What happens now? Asked Lieutenant Park. Sarah smiled as she watched the impossible sight of a dozen different species working together as equals. Now, we show the rest of the galaxy what they've been missing. The Council's defeat at Earth sent shockwaves across the galaxy. For the first time in 1,000 years, the ancient powers had been beaten, and they had been beaten by something entirely new. Not conquest, not domination, but cooperation. The news of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On council worlds, citizens gathered around communication screens in disbelief. The mighty fleet that had left their homeworlds in triumph was now scattered and running. But the real shock came when the human counterattack began. Admiral Chen Weilong stood in the command center of the UES Beijing, now orbiting the liberated moon of Silthera Minor. Around him, holographic displays showed the movement of Allied fleets across dozens of star systems. Phase 2 is beginning ahead of schedule, reported Captain Sarah Kim from her ship near the Kelari homeworld. The Liberation fleets are ready to move. 87.5 ADT. What the Council had not understood was that the Battle of Earth was not humanity's desperate last stand. It was the opening move in a carefully planned campaign that had been months in preparation. While the Council had been gathering their attack fleet, the Allied species had been positioning themselves across Council space. Kelari agricultural ships had been making routine supply runs to dozens of systems. Bruthan mining vessels had been prospecting near strategic installations. Wanderer fleets had been trading at remote outposts, but they had not been trading or prospecting or supplying. They had been mapping Council defenses, identifying key targets, and most importantly, talking to the oppressed peoples of Council space. Begin Operation Liberation, Admiral Chen commanded. Across the galaxy, the seemingly innocent Allied ships revealed their true purpose. Kelari vessels that had been peacefully orbiting trading stations suddenly deployed soldiers and weapons. Bruthan mining ships that had been ignored at resource depots captured critical supply centers. Wanderer fleets that had been dismissed as harmless nomads took control of communication networks. But this was not a campaign of destruction. It was something the galaxy had never seen before. Captain Li Minjun led a task force to the agricultural world of Verdana Prime, where the local population had been forced to give 90% of their crops to the Council as tribute. His ships appeared in orbit, carrying not weapons of war, but seeds and farming equipment. People of Verdana, he broadcast to the planet below, you don't have to give your food to masters who give you nothing in return. We're here to help you feed yourselves. The response was immediate. Verdana's planetary governor tried to rally his security forces, but the people themselves rose up. They had been hungry for decades while their food fed Council worlds. Now they saw a chance for freedom. Similar scenes played out on hundreds of worlds. Mining colonies where workers had been treated like slaves found themselves supported by Bruthan clans who understood their struggle. Research stations where scientists had been forced to work on weapons projects were liberated by Wanderer fleets who offered to share ancient knowledge freely. The psychological impact was devastating to the Council's power structure. For 1,000 years, they had maintained control through the belief that their rule was inevitable. Watching inferior species coordinate a galaxy-wide liberation campaign shattered that illusion. On the crystal world of Nalthara, the local Silhari population watched in amazement as human diplomats arrived not with weapons, but with offers of partnership. We're not here to conquer you, Ambassador Jin Sumen told the gathered crystal beings. We're here to ask what you want for your own world. What we want. The concept was foreign to Mindsinger. Velana. The Council has never asked what we want. Then it's time someone did, Jin replied. The intelligence war was equally important. Major Kim Chang-ho led human intelligence teams in revealing the Council's darkest secrets to their own people. Hidden files showed how the Council had deliberately suppressed technological advancement to maintain their advantage. Records revealed the forced extinction of 17 species who had been labeled problematic. Financial documents proved that Council worlds lived in luxury while their subjects starved. The people need to see what their leaders really are, Major Kim explained to his team. Not the noble guardians they pretend to be, but the corrupt tyrants they've always been. The revelations caused chaos on Council homeworlds. Citizens who had believed in their leaders' righteousness found themselves questioning everything. Protests began on the industrial world of Morvac Prime. Workers on Zephyrian mining colonies went on strike. Most shocking of all, some council member species began to openly revolt against their own governments. On Draconia Prime, war leader Scarax addressed his assembled warriors. For centuries, we have fought the Council's wars and died for the Council's glory. But what has it brought us? Our young warriors die in distant battles, while Council leaders grow fat on tribute. The humans fight alongside their allies, added General Thoknar. They do not send others to die for them while they stay safe. There is honor in this way of war. The proud Draconis warrior clans had always valued courage and honor above all else. When they learned how the Council had manipulated them, sending them to fight unnecessary wars while staying safely behind, their anger was terrible to behold. No more, Scarax declared. The Draconis Empire withdraws from the Council. We will not be tools for cowards. Similar declarations came from other Council species. The Silhari announced their neutrality, refusing to support either side, but demanding an end to the fighting. The aquatic depths dwellers closed their trade routes to Council ships. The economic impact was immediate. The Council's war machine depended on resources and manufactured goods from across their empire. When dozens of key species stopped cooperating, the ancient alliance began to collapse from within. Chancellor Vextar, now commanding the remnants of the Council fleet from a heavily defended fortress station, watched his empire crumble with growing desperation. "This is chaos," he screamed at his remaining advisors. 1,000 years of order, destroyed by primitive humans and their disease of rebellion. "Sir," reported his intelligence chief, "we're receiving surrender offers from 17 member species. They want to negotiate with the human alliance." Negotiate? With Chaos Bringers? Never. Vextar's 4 eyes blazed with fury. "Prepare the final fleet. If we cannot rule the galaxy, we will remind it why order must be preserved." But War Prime Theknol, injured but not defeated, had a different idea. From his prison cell on Earth, he had been watching the liberation campaign with professional interest. "Admiral Chen," he said during one of their conversations, "your people fight well, but you fight to free, not to conquer. This is unusual. It's what we believe in." Admiral Chen replied, "Freedom is something you give freely, not something you take by force. The Chancellor will not accept this." Theknol warned, "He will destroy worlds rather than lose them. This is not the Council way, but it is his way." The warning proved accurate. Desperate Council forces began attacking their own former territories. If they could not rule these worlds, they would make sure no one else could either. The first target was the research colony of New Geneva, where human and Silhari scientists worked together on medical advances. Council forces bombarded the planet from orbit, destroying years of research and killing thousands of civilians. "They're targeting civilian populations," reported Captain Torres from his patrol ship. "This isn't military strategy. This is terrorism." The attack on New Geneva sent shockwaves through the Allied forces. They had been fighting to liberate, not to destroy. The idea of deliberately targeting innocent people was alien to most of them. But it also revealed something important about their enemy. The Council was not fighting to win anymore. They were fighting to punish a galaxy that had dared to reject their authority. "This changes everything," President Santos said during an emergency meeting with Allied leaders. "We're not just fighting for freedom anymore. We're fighting to protect innocent people from their own former rulers." Elder Nalaani spoke for many when she said, "The humans showed us that there was a better way to live. Now we must show the galaxy that there is a better way to fight." The liberation campaign intensified, but now it had a new urgency. Every world they freed was a world that the Council could not destroy in spite. Every species that joined them was a species that would be protected from the Council's revenge. The race was on. Could the Allied forces liberate enough of the galaxy to protect it from the Council's final desperate assault? Or would Chancellor Vextar succeed in his mad plan to destroy what he could no longer control? Captain Sarah Kim watched the tactical displays from her command ship as Allied fleets moved across the galaxy like a spreading wave of light. Humanity had started this war as the underdogs, facing impossible odds. Now, they were leading the largest liberation movement in galactic history. And for the first time, she began to believe they might actually win. But the hardest battle still lay ahead. The Council's final stronghold on Vorthok Prime, where 1,000 years of tyranny would make its last stand. The legendary victory that would reshape the galaxy was about to begin. Vorthok Prime hung in space like a dark jewel, its surface covered with the ancient fortresses and weapon platforms that had protected the Council's capital for 3,000 years. No enemy had ever set foot on the planet. No fleet had ever broken through its defenses. Admiral Chen Weilong looked at the tactical display showing the final Council stronghold and felt the weight of history. Around him, the greatest alliance the galaxy had ever seen prepared for the last battle of a war that would determine the future of civilization itself. All fleet commanders, report status, he ordered. Human Defense Fleet ready, reported Captain Sarah Kim from the UES Harmony. All ships, armed and prepared. Kelari Agricultural Corps standing by, came Elder Nalani's gentle voice. Our seeds of peace are ready to bloom. Bruthan mining clans prepared for battle, growled clan leader Mordak. Our hammers will break their stone walls. Wanderer fleets in position, sang Fleet Master Zeeks-Ara. We dance between the stars, ready to strike. One by one, the reports came in. Draconis warriors seeking to restore their honor. Silhari mine singers, hoping to bring peace. Resonant crystal beings humming battle songs. Former Council species who had finally chosen freedom over fear. More than 200 species were represented in the Allied fleet. Thousands of ships from across the galaxy, united not by conquest or fear, but by a simple belief that everyone deserved to be free. Incoming transmission from the surface, reported Lieutenant Park. It's Chancellor Vextar. The main screen filled with the image of the Zephyrian leader. But he looked different now. His ceremonial robes were torn, his 4 eyes wild with desperation and rage. So the Chaos Bringers have come to my doorstep at last, he snarled. Do you think your rabble of inferior species can break walls that have stood for millennia? Admiral Chen spoke calmly. We're not here to break your walls, Chancellor. We're here to offer you a chance to surrender. No more people need to die today. Surrender? Vextar laughed, a sound like breaking glass. I am the heir to 3,000 years of order. I would rather see the galaxy burn than bow to your chaos. Then you'll fight alone, Admiral Chen replied. Most of your people have already chosen freedom. It was true. Across the Zephyrian Empire, cities had risen in revolt. The Chancellor's own forces were divided, with many officers refusing orders to attack civilian populations. Only his most fanatical followers remained loyal. I don't need an empire to destroy you, Vextar screamed. Vorthok Prime has enough firepower to sterilize every ship in your pathetic fleet. The transmission cut off. Immediately, the planet's defense systems came online. Massive orbital platforms swiveled toward the Allied fleet. Energy weapons that could destroy moons began to charge. All ships, evasive action, Admiral Chen ordered. The first volley from Vorthok Prime lit up space like a new star being born. Beams of pure energy lanced out across the void, seeking to destroy the ships that had dared to challenge the ancient order. The Allied fleet scattered and reformed in patterns that would have been impossible with any single species' military doctrine. Kelari agricultural ships used their knowledge of wind and weather to predict energy currents. Bruthan miners used their understanding of rock formations to find shelter in asteroid fields. Wanderer nomads simply vanished into hyperspace, reappearing where the enemy least expected. Their defense grid is too strong, reported Captain Torres from his damaged destroyer. "We can't get close enough to land troops." But Admiral Chen was not planning a conventional assault. While the Council's massive weapons hunted his fleet, smaller ships were already moving. Ships too small and fast for the planetary weapons to target effectively. "Operation Garden begins now," he ordered. Across the Allied fleet, tiny vessels launched from the larger ships. These were not fighters or bombers, but something the Council had never seen before. Kilari seed ships, designed to plant new forests. Bruthen mining pods, built to tunnel through solid rock. Wanderer exploration craft that could phase between dimensions. The small ships dove toward Vorthok Prime's surface. Their crews made up of volunteers from every allied species. They were not coming to destroy the planet's infrastructure, but to claim it. Captain Li Minjun piloted one of the lead assault craft, carrying a mixed team of humans, Kilari, and Bruthen. "Remember," he told his crew, "we're here to liberate, not to destroy. Every Council citizen we save is a victory." The landing was chaos, but organized chaos. The small ships touched down across Vorthok Prime's surface, in cities and wilderness areas, near military bases and civilian centers. As Council security forces rushed to respond, they found themselves facing something they had never trained for. The invaders were not trying to kill them. They were trying to talk to them. Citizens of Vorthok Prime. Captain Sarah Kim broadcast from her landing site. "You don't have to fight for leaders who see you as tools. You can choose freedom." In the capital city of Vorthok, Kilari teams set up medical stations to treat wounded civilians. Bruthen engineers began repairing infrastructure that had been damaged in the fighting. Wanderer technicians restored communications that the Council had cut to prevent disorder. Most shocking of all, many Council citizens began to help them. "The Chancellor ordered us to destroy our own food stores," a Zephyrian farmer told Elder Nalani. "He said it was better for us to starve than to feed rebels." What kind of leader does that to his own people? The battle for Vorthok Prime became less a military campaign and more a massive humanitarian effort. As Allied forces secured each district, they immediately began providing aid and assistance to the local population. Meanwhile, in the Chancellor's fortress at the planet's North Pole, Vextar watched his empire's final collapse with growing madness. "Sir," reported his last loyal general, "the rebels have secured the capital. They're broadcasting messages of peace and cooperation." "Peace?" Vextar's voice rose to a shriek. "There can be no peace while chaos rules. Activate the final protocol. Sir, that will destroy the entire planet. Billions of our own people will die. Better they die in order than live in chaos." The general stared at his leader with horror and quietly reached for his sidearm. Some things were more important than loyalty. But before he could act, the fortress shook as something landed on its roof. Admiral Chen Wei-Long stepped out of the craft, accompanied by war leader Skarax of the Draconis, Elder Nalani of the Kilari, and surprisingly, War Prime Theknol of the Bruthen. "I thought you were our prisoner," Admiral Chen said to the former Council war leader. Theknol's rocky features showed something that might have been a smile. "Your Admiral Santos offered me a choice. Die in a cell as a prisoner, or live free as someone who helps end this war." The choice was interesting. The group made their way through the fortress, encountering only token resistance. Most of the guards had already surrendered or simply walked away. The ancient order that had ruled through fear was dissolving as people saw there were other options. They found Chancellor Vextar in his throne room, standing before a massive control console that could trigger the planet's destruction. "Stay back," he screamed, his hand hovering over the activation key. "I'll destroy everything before I let chaos win." "You already lost," Admiral Chen said quietly. "Your own people chose freedom. Your own allies chose peace. The only one still fighting this war is you." "I am the Council," Vextar shrieked. "I am order itself." "No," said War Prime Theknol, stepping forward. You are just a tired old man who confused fear with respect. The final confrontation was not the epic duel that bards would sing about for generations. When Vextar lunged for the destruction controls, war leader Skarax simply tackled him. The proud Draconis warrior, who had learned what real honor meant, held the mad chancellor, while Elder Nalaani gently disabled the weapon systems. "It's over," Admiral Chen announced. But the real victory was not in capturing the chancellor or taking his fortress. It was in what happened next. Across Vorthok Prime, Allied forces were not establishing military rule or claiming territory. Instead, they were setting up election centers, helping local populations choose their own leaders, sharing technology and resources freely. "What happens now?" asked Captain Sarah Kim, as she watched Zephyrian children playing with Kalari younglings in the ruins of the old throne room. "Now we build something better," Admiral Chen replied. The Galactic Federation was born not in conquest, but in cooperation. Every species that wanted to join was welcome, but none were forced. Every world got to choose its own path, but help was available for those who needed it. Years later, when historians tried to understand how a small species like humanity had defeated the mighty Galactic Council, they always came back to the same answer. Humans had not won through superior technology or overwhelming force. They had won by offering something the galaxy had never seen before: a choice. The choice to be free. The choice to be equal. The choice to work together instead of being ruled by others. And billions of beings across the galaxy had chosen hope over fear, cooperation over domination, freedom over order. The defeat of the Galactic Council became legend not because of the battles that were won, but because of the peace that followed. A peace where every species, no matter how small or strange, had a voice in their own destiny. Ambassador Jin Su-min, now the first president of the Galactic Federation, often told the story to visiting dignitaries. "We didn't defeat the Council with weapons," she would say. "We defeated them with friendship." And in the great library of New Vorthok, where children from 200 species learned together, the story was written simply: once upon a time, there were people who believed that everyone deserved to be free. And so, they made it true. The galaxy had learned something humanity had always known. Real strength came not from ruling others, but from helping them rule themselves. The legend of humanity's victory would be told for thousands of years. But the best part of the legend was not how it ended. It was how it began again, every day, as free beings worked together to build something even better.